Hey, it's Shabes, and welcome to another edition of AniTube Digest, where we go over the best and, not so best anime YouTube videos to come out this week from the 12th of October to the 19th of October. Quite the slate I got this week. Let's start with a video that, I'm sorry, fam, I didn't think was very good. Not good. I hate to do this to the guy after he's like been really wanting me to cover one of his videos after he's discovered me, I guess, and keeps commenting, "Oh, not here this week, not here this week." It's like What If Universe put out a video. What if Orphan L got the Death Note with Squid the Cynic as a feature? He's kind of a collaboration here, which is interesting. More to talk about. I usually don't click on the videos, not because of the content itself of like theory crafting and all that, although I get a lot of people don't necessarily like all that kind of content. But like, because it's a little fanficky, or I don't know, there's just some weird things about it. I don't personally mind it that much, but I definitely don't go out of my way to watch it. I'm not as interested in it. And also, like, the videos you had been making recently were more Dragon Ball related videos. And while I'm aware of Dragon Ball and I've actually started watching it with my roommate, but I haven't seen Z. And I mean, I'm not as invested in the franchise, really. But I've seen Death Note, so I was like, yeah, okay, I've been wanting to give your videos a shot, you know? But I did take notes because I watched it through once and I was like, I was really at a loss for words, and I wanted to be concise. I mean, as concise as you can be with an on the off script video rant type of thing. Yeah. So I don't have any problem with the content itself and what you're doing here of this concept of L getting the Death Note when he's in this one shot. Like they kind of take some context and content from various one shots that I wasn't too familiar with. To be honest, I think the biggest problem I had was it was hard to discern what elements. Like, I've seen Death Note, but I'm not like a big Death Note fan, right? I'm not like in with the lore, like, right? So like when you discuss it and you're saying that you're integrating canon based points of like he would probably say this for this reason, whatever. I couldn't really tell because the way that this is told narratively, like vocally in the video, you're kind of telling this story of what if, right? And it's more storytelling type of thing. And he would say this, and then this would happen, and how this case would go this way, or whatever. I just thought it was really hard to pay attention and to kind of follow your train of thought. And that's difficult to do in a video, I imagine, especially particularly visually. I'm sorry, that's a lot of adverbs. It's obviously hard to make a video like this to show what it is, because it's none of this is actually happening, but it is possible. It is possible to, like, if you're saying L's at a computer or something, or L's talking to Ryuk, show L talking to Ryuk in Death Note. I'm pretty sure he talks to him, doesn't he? Like he sees Ryuk at one point. I might be wrong. Again, I'm not Death Note stan. I don't know. I just think there could have been more compelling ways to visually demonstrate this than like using the same macro of L and Ryuk and light over and over and over, and like just kind of some still image. The visual L component I don't think was all that compelling or that engaging. And especially like in one of Drew's sections, the monitor that Drew has the stuff playing over. I like the structure of it, and then his avatar is on the right. It's a nice balance, but the footage being shown is like very little, minimally edited footage from episode 1 of Death Note, and it's like they're playing the episode out, and you're not editing clips to syncopate what you're talking about. If you're talking about L, you're showing footage of L, right? If you're showing footage of talking about Ryuk, that sort of thing. It was just the scene from episode 1 where Light is like sees the Death Note fall, and then goes and picks it up, and it's basically playing all that scene out, and there's a lot more atmosphere, and that scene's kind of dragged out, and I could tell it wasn't doing it. You're not really putting that much attention into what you're showing the audience. You're just kind of expecting them to listen. And I get like a lot of people do click on another tab when they're doing this sort of thing, and they're just kind of listening to it as background noise. And it kind of ended up being background noise, just the way it was written. Like there's a sentence I had to write down because it was like, it's hard to follow. It's like, it's not like conceptually hard to follow, but just the way it's worded, it's like, with this story, we'll be following his character to a significant point before it reached a point where he changes as a character. Like, if you pay attention very specifically, you might be like, okay, yeah, there is a coherent thought there, but the way it goes, like, following his character to a significant point before it reaches a point where he changes as a character. Do you see how it's like, that's hard to follow as like a script, as like something to listen to, and it ends up becoming a lot of like just kind of noise. And that's not an offense to your ideas, and I'm not like pointing and laughing at your ideas or anything like that. I just think it was difficult to follow. And it doesn't also help that like, so I watched this twice, because I watched it once all the way through, because that's usually what I do. I don't usually take notes. But then when I finished that, I was like, I'm gonna do a horrible job of explaining why this is not a very good video. So I have to watch it again and pay attention and really make sure I know what I'm talking about. I'm taking notes here. I do appreciate the transparent. I'm sorry if I'm bouncing all over the place. This is what it'd be when it's off script, by the way. I do appreciate the transparency you give towards the beginning, where it's like, yes, this is a little more fan fiction than my other vids, but I do try to add a lot more canon stuff. And I was gonna say, like, if there was a visual, like, besides having just compelling visuals in general, not using the same repetitive macros or just still images or barely edited footage of episode 1 or, of the show. Because I was like, even basic clip selection, I think, would do better than what we're doing here. But I was just thinking as kind of a creative idea, if there's some way to visually signify when you're talking about canon stuff and when you're not talking, or like you're basically giving details, or I don't know, just like more transparent, like instead of like trying to tell the story in a narrative sense of like tell the story of what if blah blah blah, I would say you take it from more of a theory crafting standpoint, and it's more separated, and it's like, well, based on the fact that L does this in this part of the story, if he had this situation presented in front of him, he would probably do this, and so on and so forth. I think just having more of a transparent narrative thing like that, or if you have something in like the corner or something to visually signify, to distinguish between talking about something that's canon versus something that's not canon, because I actually could not tell if you were talking about the one shot or you were talking, because I hadn't read the one shot or whatever story you're loosely basing this off of that you mentioned at the beginning. I couldn't tell if you were if when Squid comes in, I did not know or recognize that he was talking. I watched it the second time and I was like, oh, they're starting the what if scenario here. They're not like explain, because it sounded like a summary of the one shot that what Squid was doing, and that's what kind of was the source of confusion for me. I was like, wait, when are they going to start theory crafting this? Because it sounded like summary, but it was summary, but for your other but for the scenario. If this is confusing for anyone who hasn't seen this video, I'm sorry. It's hard to follow. It was really difficult to parse for me. And I think clarity is a really important part of video making. I would imagine, in order to get have the video being engaging. And I think you have an audience that engages with it anyway, or understands it perfectly fine. So fine. But that was something that was difficult for me. And the other thing that made it difficult, there's a couple of things. I'm sorry. This is very all over the place. It just, but Drew's audio, I was noticing very much towards the beginning. It got better later. but it felt really unpolished. I don't feel like you do more than one take. I feel like you kind of like, you might start a sentence. You see how like I'm stammering and kind of repeating myself, and you know what I mean? I'm off script, and I'm very transparent about that. But I don't know if you're off script here. It doesn't, the way the words are structured, it doesn't sound like it. But the delivery seems unpolished, and there could be multiple takes, I would say. And don't be afraid to do that. If there's like a stutter or like, especially the cadence. There's something about your cadence is really hard. It's a little distracting, and I'm probably sure this is the case with, I don't know if this is the case with the rest of your content, but for here, there was a lot of pausing in a weird case, and it sounds off script, and I'd be okay if it was off script, but like there was something. It was hard for me to tell if it was or not. I don't think it is. Would be my guess based on the words here, based on the word choice you're using, and there isn't as many or anything like that, but the amount of kind of the pauses, the way you're speaking, and the, you know, it just felt unpolished, I guess, and that kind of added to the confusion for me. But you know, would it be? I will also, one last thing was, I really like this as a collab. I love when YouTubers collab with each other, and Squid did as good of a job, I think, with this. Again, the content itself I think is decent, but I just think a lot of it ended up tripping based on delivery and execution, I guess. But it was hard for me to parse. Squid kind of came, the integration of the collaboration with Squid was also led to a little confusion, because I rewatched your intro twice, and I paid attention of like, okay, when does he introduce that this is a collab with Squid? Like, yes, it's in the title, but like there needs to be, you can't just kind of have them suddenly pop up, you know? And it's immersion breaking. Like, you can have them pop up, because I was just thinking about it, like I did technically have Steven pop up quoting Tomino in my Gurren Lagann video, and I'm like, where he mentions this, and I kind of lead on, and suddenly it's somebody else's voice, and it's the only time in the video that happens. I just don't know. I just think this particular instance just felt immersion breaking. I don't know, and it's like, and I also have Squid here or something. I don't know. And it was hard. It was like, is this one narrative that you're working on together, and then you're just kind of trading places, like taking turns in telling it, or is it, this is your piece of the story, and this is his piece of the story, and that just kind of swapping hands? Like, it was weird integration. It wasn't as clear to me. And yeah, clarity is kind of a big thing with me personally. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm sorry, I'm for your first your first entry into Digest isn't such a positive one. But you know, I'm still subscribed to you, and I think it's still possible to make some decent stuff. And again, I think I've mentioned this to you, or you've said it, or I don't know, but like, you do occupy a very unique space. And I think it can be really interesting. But you know, I think I just keep at it, I guess. I think it just keeping those in mind, and I don't know, try to find better ways to articulate it visually, and just better execution. Yeah, what it be. But yeah, thank you for making videos, I guess, and being so persistent of like waiting for your turn, I guess. Sorry it wasn't this. I don't know. I hope this is fruitful, at least. It's better than just me ignoring you completely, or just saying I liked it and no feedback, right? I guess that's the one positive I can say. But yeah, I got a request video from Durcoin. Wanted me to talk about a shiny piece video. I wasn't familiar with this creator, and so I subscribed to her. This is from last year, or yeah, basically last year. Is Stardust? Yes, it's last 2019, but it's December 2019. This is fairly recent. Is Stardust Crusaders as good as they say? Pretty just a general review from her, and boy, she's she's harsher. She's kind of harsh on Stardust Crusaders. But it was like it was weird how much like problems she has, and her problems seem like way more amplified than the good stuff. But at the end of the video, she's like, "Yeah, I recommend it," and it's like I had a good time, and it's like it's a mixed bag. It's like you did not sell that as a mixed bag. You're like, and I was wondering like if that answer of is it as good as they say, the more you're complaining about it, that she's complaining about it, the more I was like, ooh, I guess not. I guess it's not as good as they say, which was reminding me of my own video. And I was very tempted to watch it, and then I started skipping through it a little bit, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna cringe really hard watching this. So I wanted to save it. I haven't watched that video in a long time, actually. It's rare when I don't rewatch my own videos because I like my own videos. What do I expect? But that one I'm not as big of a fan of because of the negative reception it got, which, like, all things considered, wasn't as bad. The like-dislike ratio is not great, but it's not, like, awful. I don't know. Sorry if this is about me now. But, like, it was reminding me of my own problems with Part 3. And, but it was weird. Like, the majority of her criticisms are very, like, similar to a lot of people's general complaints about Part 3. But just even more so, I guess. She mentions a lot of stuff of like, oh, Polnareff kind of takes the spotlight a lot more. The Iggy is a nothing character. I don't know. It was like Kakyoin. She really couldn't get behind Kakyoin. She was wondering why Avdol has, his fate. I don't really want to spoil Part 3 here. It's like, oh, wonder why that happened. And, oh, I guess Araki forgot about the powers that Kakyoin has versus later. And, yeah, I don't know. It was just a lot of the same in terms of the review, I guess. It didn't feel like it had a lot of personal insight or looking into it all that much. It just felt like, yeah. And it was funny. She goes, like, towards the end, she's like, will I review more of this show? I don't know. And I don't know if I probably won't talk about it for a long, long time. And then I look at her channel and she's reviewed Part 4 already, like 4 months ago. So that's like, it was in December, and then 4 months ago, that's like 6 months. And it's like, she reviewed like a couple other things, like maybe like 3 or 4 other things, and then she watched Part 4. I didn't see how she thought about it. I love Part 4. As in my video about Part 4, which I very strongly compare to Part 3 because I watched it together. I'm sorry, this is about me again. Yeah, but it was just really bizarre, especially to see like how little pushback she seems to have gotten. The like-dislike ratio is fine. It's probably because it doesn't have that many views on it. But if JoJo fans found this video, ooh boy, they would not be happy. It was interesting. She doesn't do too much else with the video. Otherwise, there isn't too much else to say about it. She has her avatar pop up occasionally, mostly in the beginning and towards the end, but not so much in the middle. And it's mostly just clip selection, which is fine. It has a little Kaseyama watermark on some of the episodes. Would it be, I guess? But like, yeah, there isn't too much going on in the visual department. It's not the worst thing, I guess. But yeah, I'm sorry I don't have too much. I like the thumbnail. I'm sorry I'm running out of ideas. I'm talking about the thumbnail now. But it's like it looks like a kind of a hand-drawn sort of thing. I like that. I was actually kind of expecting more on a visual component because of that thumbnail. And then when I saw it was mostly just very standard clip selection, it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, she's really harsh on Part 3. But it was just I thought it was just very, I'm sorry to be cyclical like that. I can repeat myself. Yeah, it was interesting. Thank you for requesting it. I'm sorry I don't have too much to say about it. My opinions of Part 3 are pretty mid. It's kind of in the same department as her. She liked the villains much more than I did. I just thought I could just complain about Part 3 now at this point. Yeah, Yeah, I don't know. It's a it's a review of Star-Crossed Crusaders, I guess. A lot more negative than it appears to be, I guess. Anyway, sorry to repeat myself a bunch of times and repeating myself about repeating myself. Well, now for the videos that I thought were decent, pretty good. But this first one, I it's more on the lines of disappointed. I have to say, I was looking forward. I remembered that he recommended me this video. Like the user sent this to the uploader sent this to me. I saw it and I was like, oh, cool, cause hour-long video on Cutie Honey. Sign me the fuck up. Binge watching the Cutie Honey franchise from Randall The Vandal. And yeah, sorry, it was kind of a disappointment. Just the way it was structured chronologically, and how you had started with RE Cutie Honey and loved that one, so it made you want to watch the whole franchise. And yeah, this is kind of necessary in a way that like no other YouTubers really made such a thorough review of the series. I mean, it's probably out there, but not like in one cohesive video. So I love that, and it's about older anime, and it's mostly thorough. Here's the thing about it is it wasn't the most retrospective, fully realized thing about like you really get the franchise. I did not get that feeling as soon as you started talking about Sailor Moon, which is like, wait, it's a Cutie Honey video. Why are you talking about Sailor Moon? He talks about it for 8 minutes, like around that long, like kind of a long time, as if it's its own entry. And he did that to contextualize Cutie Honey Flash, which came out in '97, which it's apparently taking a lot from Sailor Moon, which was an interesting observation, kind of. It's just, I don't know if it really went too much anywhere. It felt very surface level. In the comparisons of the two, I felt like you could have really taken a look at that, but it doesn't help when you didn't watch all of Cutie Honey Flash. Like, I really disconnected from your video when I saw that you didn't even binge all of it. Like, you were binging the Cutie Honey franchise and you watched 19 of the 39 episodes of Cutie Honey Flash. What are we doing here? You dropped it? What do you mean? And you're talking to somebody, you're seeing somebody who doesn't drop anything. When I watch something, I watch all of it. And I'm not trying to be holier than thou. Everyone drops stuff, and everyone has their thing. And I'm just giving you clarity to my outlook. When I see that you're making a video about this show, and you say that you dropped it 19 out of 39 episodes in, I don't trust your opinion on that show, because you didn't watch all of it. Like, what if sister what's her name? I've not seen any Cutie Honey, and I'm really looking forward to watching 73 and RE, which you sell incredibly well. I think you do a great job with those. Here's another bias that I have if you're not familiar with me as much. I much prefer the positive stuff. When people start talking negatively about a series, I get a lot more skeptical. It's difficult. It's a fine line for me. And it didn't really work. I feel like you were really strong talking about what you loved about the original Cutie Honey, and I felt your passion for it, and I felt your passion for RE. Although, with RE in particular, I felt you didn't talk about it nearly as much as you should have, I think. I didn't get a full understanding of the third episode of RE, besides it's darker and it was directed by Ano. And I should get that. It felt like, oh, you should know already. Or like the fact that Imaishi directed it. It's like, okay, what does Imaishi do that calls back to what makes the original Cutie Honey so good? And really break that down to the components and what's missing from Universe, from Flash, from Shin. And I think you start to get there, but I don't know. I just think that the structure of this video, where you regimentally went franchise by franchise, series by series, and there wasn't a lot of overlap or bleeding into one another as much as I think there could have been. And so like, and the sucky part is that you end the video with this huge section, much big. I think you talk about universe longer than Re, or maybe even the original. I'm not gonna check that. But it felt longer. But like 3 out of the 5 you didn't like, and then you end on Cutie Honey Universe. This one that you call is one of the worst anime you've ever seen. I've heard bad things about Universe. I believe you that it's a bad show, assuming you've seen all of it. You know what I mean? It was just giving me a lot of distrust in what you were saying. I was like, especially when you talk about Sailor Moon for 8 minutes and you didn't like it. I haven't seen Sailor Moon either, but what I have seen is a lot of magical girl anime, and I know from other people that have watched it today, like recently, it's not nostalgia. They do like it. Like you think that like a lot of people like Sailor Moon because they grew up on it or nostalgia or whatever. Not so much. Yes, the case, but like in contemporary anime discourse, like the people who are talking about it with Ikuhara, like you didn't watch the Ikuhara series that he directed. You don't even mention Utena once in this whole thing, which like when you were describing Flash, I couldn't believe how similar it was to Utena in the way you were describing it. In the way that like it wraps up an arc in the first 13 episodes and then it moves into something completely different in the next one. That's exactly what Utena does. And I don't like it. I kind of don't like Utena for that reason. But it was just kind of weird in that way. And little things like and another thing you should know about me, I watch a lot of older stuff and I study into a lot of older stuff. So when you said that like Sailor Moon is taking this idea from Cutie Honey where she disguises herself in this one episode, this capsule or whatever. I mean, again, I haven't seen Sailor Moon, but that doesn't seem like a focus. But beyond that, this idea of transformation and disguising and everything was not a Cutie Honey thing. That's a Himitsu Aku-chan thing. And that was a thing in magical girl anime for a while. Before Sailor Moon, and then after Sailor Moon. Like, this is a general genre trope, and you can't just be like, Sailor Moon took this from this show. You see, it's like having this like kind of like tunnel vision of like, oh, and it's so funny when you were talking about Cutie Honey Flash, and you mentioned this tennis scene, and you were showing footage of like a ricocheting a tennis ball, like bringing up and then like hitting her in the face, and then getting you had a problem with the tennis ball, like creating a crater in the wall, like. You're going to have a problem with it because it's taking itself serious? Come on. But beyond that, you're like, I bet this is where Kill la Kill takes it from. Hey, my guy. Allow me to introduce you to this little-known series. I'm sorry to be facetious and pretentious in this. I just felt this energy from it. And so it's like, I'm skewering this video to pieces right now. I'm sorry. It got me going, man. In a while... I'm happy it did, because it's like, I'd rather watch this than mid, right? Yeah. It's an aim for the ace thing. It's a very, very popular shoujo sports tennis series that was very influential, and that's where it's taking that from, like where Cutie Honey is taking that scene from. That is an homage to Aim for the Ace. And then you're like, I bet Kill la Kill took their tennis scene from this scene from Cutie Honey Flash. It's like, no, it didn't. I'm sorry. It took other things from Cutie Honey. It most certainly did. The sexy sort of transformation and big sword, like, no shit. Like, it's very clearly taken from Cutie Honey. But not in that way. Not in the tennis. I don't know. And I'm sorry that's a very minor point, right? But it's little things like that in the grand scheme of things. And also just like complaining about the animation in Flash of like it's cheap animation. And you're giving the original Cutie Honey a pass? Why? Like you praise it for like these really cool visuals and really cool psychedelic things, but it is pretty cheap in other areas. That it's like, yeah, it doesn't have it was also another point that you make. You really lean into this idea that the original Cutie Honey is better because it has a different transformation scene every episode. And yet I swear you used the same transformation scene in your video like 4 times to demonstrate that point. And I'm like, but I've seen that transformation before. Isn't there 25 unique transformations? Why is it a different one? Why is it the same one every time? What would it be? So that was another thing that I was starting to distrust you. I was starting to be like, does it really have a I believed you when you said it in your TV, your section about that TV series. But when you're starting to kind of chip away at my trust in you as a viewer, I start to look back at these other things and I'm like, and now I'm like, I kind of have to watch it for myself. And I don't necessarily trust your, although I do think you do sell the original Cutie Honey and RE very well. But to me, it's just like, I have to see. That's just the stuff that kind of came off to me as kind of more of an astute, like somebody who really cares about like the history and like also, okay. It wasn't really thorough, not just because you didn't finish one of the series, and I'm sorry to be a stickler about that. But it was funny you didn't mention, you mentioned that Hideaki Anno directed an episode of RE Cutie Honey, but you didn't mention the Cutie Honey movie that he directed. The live action. I get that it's live action, it's a tokusatsu thing, and you probably didn't want to watch it maybe, or maybe you came across it, but like, no mention of that? Really? That's kind of an important... And Imaishi actually has key animation credited in that film, because he does this really crazy, like, still frame, like, the character does kind of some crazy poses and stuff. It's actually... It sounds like a lot of fun, actually. A lot of people in my circles that have talked about Cutie Honey and everything, they do recommend it. But then you mention that it's a Go Nagai work, but you don't really... Is it a manga? You don't mention the manga, and you kind of criticize Shin Cutie Honey and probably RE? Not RE. I don't remember. It's like the one... You seem to have problems with it being weirdly gory, like grimmer or darker, and you were showing... To demonstrate that, you were visually showing the characters smiling like Devilman, like characters that Go Nagai, like it's a Go Nagai work. Of course it looks like that. I just thought that it was like, why did you forget that Go Nagai made this? Like, do you know who he is? He's not only the creator of Cutie Honey, but like he's kind of one of the pioneers of ecchi manga. Like he created this series that's not as like popular, but it was one of the first ongoing ecchi manga. And this idea of like pervy humor and everything was something that he pioneered. But also was the guy who was doing it. So it's like, if you're I would imagine that's why that's in there. That's why Shin looks like that. Like the way Shin has like all this like gruesome kind of like weird demon-y type of things, and it doesn't feel like the same lighthearted fun, is because and that's also what happened with Go Nagai's Devilman. It'd be like it was like the dissonance of like crediting the like watching the 72 Devilman anime and being like, wow, that was fun, and then watching like Devilman The Birth and being like, what is this? Why is he regular colored? Where's the green superhero? I thought it was supposed to be this. It's like having that disconnect. It's like, there's the manga, and I'm not saying that Shin is a more faithful adaptation the same way, whatever. I'm not familiar with the manga. But those were the questions that were going in my head, where it's like, well, I know why it looks like that. It's probably because they know it's a Go Nagai thing, so they're just trying to integrate more influences like that into it. That's probably why. And so as someone who's like looked into this stuff and kind of done these grand sort of things, and truth be told, is considering doing something like this for Lupin, except because I am binging the entire Lupin franchise, but I would not be going entry by entry, because it would be a lot of complaining. Because that was the real disappointment thing at the end, was that even though you strongly recommend the franchise and you watch it, the fact that you end on Universe as like one of the worst anime you've ever watched, it kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. And I was like, I don't even know if I want to watch this series now, right? And maybe that's not the case for other people. And again, I think you sell RE Cutie Honey and the original really well. Yeah, it's just frustrating. But you know, I put it in decent because, again, I think those two sections are great, and I'm very happy that you made this big hour-long, thorough video, went out of your way to really talk about this stuff, even though you probably found some of this to be mid or awful, right? I think it's kind of a pain to edit something like that. Yeah, you know, it was unfortunate that it kind of left a sour taste in my mouth in that regard. And yeah, you're the few episodes you watch of Sailor Moon and your opinions of it, you can have your takes on it. I don't like Utena, and a lot of people love Utena, right? And it's like I'm saying it's like you can have these opinions on Sailor Moon, but no one's really going to. You don't get it. You know what I mean? If you haven't seen all of it, especially the Ikuhara's, it's like, I bet he does this other thing. You know what I mean? It just kind of like, I just don't know if you needed to include that Sailor Moon section at all. I really wish that just wasn't in the video for me. Yeah. Anyway, I'm so happy you sent that, and congrats on working on it after so long. It took you since like June. I know the feeling of making a long video like this. I feel you. Yeah, that's my thoughts. Very long thoughts. This is already 37 minutes. Jeez Louise. But I'm still subscribed to New York Comic Con for some reason, and I noticed that they uploaded this video from Heavenly Controller, and then I saw it was the same video on his channel. So I was like, I'm just going to take it from his channel. It turned out I wasn't subscribed, but I was familiar with this guy just on Twitter in general, and he seems to be just like a kind of a higher profile presence. But he mostly does reaction videos, so I'm probably not going to talk about his videos all that much. But this was kind of a different one, the Heavenly Controller meal, sponsored by McDonald's. And I don't know if the McDonald's thing is kind of a haha joke or whatever. I don't know why it was uploaded on New York Comic Con. Maybe he had something. But this is like a car vlog. It's very off script. He's just like, he ordered McDonald's and he's just kind of eating and reminiscing about the old times and when he was a kid and watched Dragon Ball with his friends and stuff and Toonami and, you know, kind of wafting on about nostalgia and stuff. And the feelings that you get from it, I guess. I don't know. It was not the most engaging thing to follow for me, but it was something different for him. And not a lot of people make these kind of videos of like just kind of talking in the car, just like off the cuff, like small thing. At least at this size, and he normally makes reaction content. I mean, I'm not familiar with his content, so maybe this isn't an irregular thing. But I just thought it was interesting. I appreciated his thoughts. He seemed very passionate about it. I liked the story he shared, where he remembers seeing Goku go Super Saiyan for the first time, and he was with some friends, and the way they thought he looked like he was constipating, so everyone kind of did it with him, and it was funny. And then they had the surprise or whatever. I thought it was funny. You know, it seems like an enigmatic presence that like would be fun to watch, do a reaction channel, to see his other content as a reaction channel, I guess, because that's really what it demands, is kind of a reactionary, vocal, personable, affable character. But you know, it seems fine, and I just thought that was kind of different and interesting. Nothing too much else to it, but yeah, cool. I'm gonna go 30 minutes on those handful of videos, and then the rest of these are gonna be like, yeah, that was cool. I really don't have too much else to say with these other videos, to be honest with you. Sorry to lampshade that, I guess. But the AnimeHERO put out more of a personal video on why I went on hiatus, and he kind of discusses his relationship with media and the stuff that he watched when he was a kid, and realizing that he had little gaps, and he was really interested in other things, and he went back and watched some of these older cartoons, and then he kind of got introduced to Star Trek, and he's been watching a lot of Star Trek lately, and how that influences him and inspires him, and he's kind of returning to his own creative process of creating characters, drawing, and potentially writing his own story, which is awesome. I love seeing that. And this is a kind of similar trend that's going with some other YouTubers and stuff, where I'm seeing like, you know, they're kind of giving some self-awareness, and it's like, well, I'm making these videos, but I want to do something bigger and more interesting, or challenge myself, I guess. but it looks like he sounds like he's in a better place. He was very personal, very vulnerable, opening up about the series of funerals he's had to go to for his family, various family members, which is really tough. The pandemic's not been great for him. Um, but like this sort of personal thing has been great, and it was good to see that side of him. And he's like, I went to a con for first time really, opened up and went there and had a really good time. It was really good to hear about that from him. I love hearing that stuff. Even that's awesome. So I really liked seeing that. The drawings are pretty cool. Not gonna rag on him or anything. I think that's awesome, and I've been there too. I mean, I still have some of my drawings and notepads from somewhere else and stuff, and I drew for a while. So I know the feeling, and I like that the observation he made where he's like, I like doing a lot of scribbles, and like the amount of like the kind of music I listen to really inspires that out of me to like draw like and I was like, yeah, I vibe with that. So that was comfy, and I was happy you shared that. So yeah, I wanted to share that with you. Bonsai Pop had a decent Devilman video. I mean, that's why it's indecent. Making moms mad for 50 years. They don't go too much into the, like, I mean, he's like, if this came out back in the day, this would have been censored in the United States. And I agree with him. This is more of a overview of kind of, and more focused. It's not trying to be like a franchise retrospective as much. He doesn't really, he kind of makes a point that he's not going to go into Devilman Lady, even though the anime is right there, I guess. Where Discotheque is licensing it. All right. But he's mostly focusing on the manga and the birth ones, as well as Amon. He brings up Amon, and I guess they made a Devilman Crybaby video already, so they kind of incorporate that very succinctly because it is a pretty solid adaptation of the manga, more modernized, right? But they throw it in very similarly with the manga and everything. And they kind of just describe the story. It's a bit of more of a plot summary type of thing. But, Bonsai, I don't remember the guy's name, but like his level of investment was really strong. And I thought it was a good way of selling the series to people. And it's like, what is it? Is it just blood and guts kind of thing? Which I felt was a lot of the case with his Fist in the North Star video. I thought he did much better with this Devilman video. And there isn't too much. It was just a very by the numbers Devilman thing. But I was happy he dug more into the manga, I guess. And the Amon shout out was good too. He's like, yeah, we checked this out, and it was really cool, or whatever, and that was cool. So substanceless. I'm sorry. And Whang put out another anime related video. And I'm not like subbed to him, so I almost missed it. The anime bath scene wiki versus Reddit, tales from the internet. I guess describing a situation back in 2015 where a post came up of the top 10 anime bath scenes of 2014, and it caused such a stir that they got into r/all. I'm not a Redditor, okay? So I don't really know the drama and the implications of things, and I wasn't there for it, right? I think Whang really articulates this idea of this. So there's a wiki that exists, moderated by one person, and Whang kind of describes them a little bit and what they do, cataloging every bath scene in anime, and there's like 4,000 articles. And it's a very over-the-top, ridiculous idea, but I really like the handle that Whang, not the handle, but something that Whang handles it. The way that he handles the subject is very poised and like not judgmental, not like bagging on them. I think he embodies some of the rambunctiousness that the hilarity that ensues. And he kind of brings that forward and doesn't shy away from like an occasional misspelling he's like, let's look at the trivia there, and he misspell there or whatever. Like, he doesn't clown on it, but he doesn't hide away from it. I think there was a really subtle, like a nuanced take to it. I thought that was good. But that didn't feel like fence sitting. He was just kind of describing it to his audience, which is great. I really like his videos. Yeah. I liked it. It was cool to hear about. And yeah, I think that was the my biggest takeaway from it is that this very I like that he mentions how this brought up this discussion, this argument of all anime fans like this? Because if you see this as a non-anime fan, you might get that judgment of the whole thing, and some people are like that, you're right, and some of us are crazy enough to make videos about it or talk about other people's videos on it. Hello. There is a degree of what I could be saying right now, and it's funny. This is reminding me of this idea of curation. It's kind of a this idea of moderators, that you're not creating the content and you're not just passive, but you're not passively consuming it. You're in this middle zone of reviewers, museum curators, wiki creators, wiki moderators who are cataloging and documenting and making this huge database that's actually really thorough. Like I like that Whang really went into it. It didn't just joke on it. It's like, no, this is actually really thorough. And his description of everything was really great. So I thought he did a great job with this. But it's only so much. It didn't wow me in the way. I don't know. I shouldn't. I hate. I was sorry. I just it sucks when I always have to remind myself. It's so why is it indecent? And it's no, that's just what my feelings are. It's whether I feel strongly or not so strongly as whatever. Whatever. Enough self-reflection. On to the next video. Jeez. But yeah, I'll start with this one for one of the best videos of the week. These four, I was like, yeah, that was kind of nice. I really liked that. This first one was given to me from somebody. I'm sorry, I don't. A lot of people all the time, whatever. NerdTab is a Spanish-speaking YouTuber. She is unfair. Talent in Sakurasu no Pet Nakanojo. And what's great is that they include English subs, which I really appreciate. That's the real big thing of it might be a thing in Digest. I might have written it somewhere of English speaking only. And that's largely because it's not often that they have. I don't really want to go off of automatically generated English subtitles because I think that wouldn't be fair. That's why I have that rule there, because I really want to be able to understand it. And I thought I did with this because they include those English subs, and I appreciate that it's in the title as well. So this is great to see. And it's a very serious kind of feeling video. The music choice is very deliberately slow and atmospheric, I guess. And NerdType really describes this show in a way that I haven't before, especially because a lot of people kind of clown on this show and take issue with this character that he's mostly talking about, which is the main girl that seems very autistic and absent-minded and not functioning as a normal member of society in the same way. And I had not seen the show, but that was kind of what I knew about it. Was I had this girl that's weird and vacant, and you find out that the reason is because she sacrificed all of those functions, and she is the way she is because she put all of her focus and attention in what she's good at and in the talent. But because she's already a masterful painter, world-class renowned painter, and then she has the passion and the wants to move on to do manga, and she puts everything into that. And NerdTap really goes into the psychological factors from other people around her of seeing a passion like that and the quality of her work that she's able to produce, with the trade-off that she's very hard to understand and doesn't function. She's very messy and unkempt and has all these other social norms kind of undeveloped, and so she becomes very alienating. And I think a lot of audience members in metatextually, for people who know about this show, I think that is kind of a turnoff, I bet. But NerdTab, I think, kind of twists that and is no, that's the point, and that's kind of the interesting thing. But also the idea that you're never going to get as talented as her unless you do that, is what I was kind of getting, kind of what I was kind of getting from that video. But there's something kind of like weirdly beautiful about it, I guess. And like NerdTab is very transparent. It's like, this is my waifu, and I'm sorry, I'm going to contain my excitement for the, you know. I appreciated the transparency there. But this was really interesting, and I think more importantly, that kind of pushed it for best for me was that setting that atmosphere very still, a little harrowing, kind of like really focused, and it really captured my attention. It also helps that, you know, I had to really pay attention because there's subtitles. It does help. But I think that it led to a really unique, interesting experience. And this is a very, much smaller creator. I'm surprised. I like, granted, maybe this is more of a normal practice with other bigger YouTubers in the non-English speaking, rather Spanish speaking. I assume this is Spanish. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. It might be Portuguese. I'm sorry. I don't know. I think it's Spanish though. I'm not in that sphere at all, so I don't really know who the big people are. But I think this is really great to see, especially from such a smaller creator. And yeah, I really liked it. Thank you for sending me that, person. I'm sorry. It might be a patron, and I might be just a big dick. Sorry. Or might be a comment here. I'm sorry. What it be? But thank you for sending that, and I enjoyed it. Nice one. Thank you, NerdTab, for making that video. Canipa Effect kills it once again. I didn't watch his Avatar video because it's an Avatar video, right? Like, well, fuck off. yeah. No, not like I hate Avatar or whatever, but it's just like, you know, anime YouTubers making an Avatar video. I just like, I'm fine. I'm good. But I did watch Legend of Korra. Funny enough, I never actually watched all of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I've seen a lot of it, and I've seen the finale. I just happened to catch it everywhere and never really sat down and binged all of it. But I trust it does look great. It does look like really, really well-made show, really well put together, and good show. I'm no knock against it. It's just like, you know, I just don't know, the feeling of anime YouTubers covering it in that way. It's just like, whatever. But I'm sure Canipa does a fantastic job, as always, really talking about the production side of it and what they had to do and the uniqueness of that production. But I think this one was much more compelling. I mean, not that I've seen that other one. Sorry. But it was compelling to me because I've actually seen all of Korra. I remember watching it as it was coming out, year to year, following it week to week. And it was interesting being there for season 2, where it was Rocky, and I had no idea about what was going on behind the scenes. And then when that episode happens with Whang, the first Avatar, and that's like the return of the studio. So it's like, okay, there's a narrative here. I really liked that there's an actual narrative with the studio that initially made this, and then they had to move on because there's too much work. They worked themselves to death in season 1. And then Studio Pierrot had to do season 2, and then they couldn't really keep up, so they bring back that old studio. And with how fewer episodes, they still kind of kill it, you know, and really work themselves too much. But season 3, they find this really good way to balance that and it's like limit themselves and kind of like, but still putting out really good stuff. And season 3 is a much better season, much better output. And I like the points that Canipa was making, where it's like a lot of people just focus on the final result and not so much about the context. And everything, you know, the nuanced benefits to it. So I really liked that, and I think he's doing a much better job articulating what makes this stuff good, or at the very least impressive. At the very least, like, this is crazy that like they're animating this character and there has to be secondary battle animation to like they have to pay attention to the folds of their clothes because of how much like their cape and the hair. Like, that's impressive. That's a lot of work, and that's what makes it interesting, and not so much like, wow, that's great animation or whatever like that, right? Not some subjective terms. It's like, look at the amount of detail they have to do here, and they're showing that in concrete terms. Canipa is. So he's really great. He's getting better and better and better at this. I think he's had a great streak this year. I think this year's content for him, he's like one of the best people this year. I think he's making consistently fantastic stuff and really informative, enlightening things. I really like the narrative here. I appreciate how much work he put into it, because he was like, oh my god, it took forever on this video. So that was great too. Really great video. What can I say? And I gotta say, I'm a little bit of a toss-up here. There's two creators. I can't decide which video I liked more, as a quote-unquote best of the week. So, I mean, I take it as you will. This is pretty much on equal terms for me. But I think I'll talk about Pause and Select's video first, about Japan Sinks 2020 and the future of disaster. Long-awaited video that I was waiting for. As soon as he made that his previous video on Japan Sinks, the franchise, and describing the original novel as well as the two films, and I really wanted to hear his take on this, and it's a lot more nuanced than I thought it was going to be. I thought he was going to really focus on like the religious stuff based on his tweets and some other stuff I've seen that he was talking about initially. And there is a section about that, but it doesn't go the way I think I thought it would. And there's a lot more different, interesting bits to this that he was noticing, very much in the small details of Japan Sinks 2020, and not so much big picture, like whether it's a good show or whether it's interesting, or whether it is. He says like, we're all adults here. I really like the caveat, like the preface of like, we're all adults here. We're not trying to like debate whether this is good or not. Like the show actually is good. It's interesting that a show called Japan Sinks 2020 does these things. And I think it goes a lot deeper into the background and the context that this is being made in 9 years after 3/11. And that's exactly what it's trying to, because like the difference of 3/11, to my understanding with this video, versus much of Japan's other disasters, was that it was televised in real time. And I remember that. I remember being in like my chemistry class and hearing about it, and they turned on the fucking TV. Like, I'm pretty sure I visually remember myself being there, which is crazy. And not there, but like, in the chemistry room, whatever. But like, he really hammers it home that this is the most devastating natural disaster, in the most costly, at least, in human history. Crazy. But he really goes into a lot of the different interesting little details of like this idea of invisible impact, or I forget the English word. It's like basically the difference between visible and invisible breaking of stuff. Like there's the physical damage you can see and the financial cost, but you think about the breaking down of invisible bonds, like people's relationship with each other. People are just nastier. It totally demolishes social networks and structures and stuff. Like, I used to go to this store every day. This was my daily routine, and now it's gone, sort of deal. Those are invisible type of things. And he's saying that Japan Sinks 2020 is sort of bringing that closer to the forefront and making it more obvious, which is interesting. And I don't know if this is a separate point or kind of related to that, but it just happens to remind me of it. He brings up this idea of there are more sexual assaults of women and children in these times because of the unrest, because it leads to more alcoholism, and alcoholism leads to more. And he's citing all these studies, and it's all like in text of stuff. It's not him just kind of spouting this stuff out. It's really he's it's like Steven, right? And it's really the sign of a good YouTuber. In a way, there are many good ways to be a good YouTuber, but I think one of my favorites, and I try to embody, and hopefully I did with my Gurren Lagann video, is it's less my opinion or Joe's opinion and Steven's opinion, and more venting being the vehicle, and the funnel, and the basically making a video like this that you can show people, instead of like throwing a bunch of papers at them, or throwing a bunch of quotes everywhere. Joe is really able to succinct that, disseminate. I don't know if that's the word. Fuck it. Bring all this information together and cohesive into one place. And to say that the two brief scenes, they're brief scenes. They're not like, it's not like a major plot point in Japan Sinks, but it's an interesting thing that brings that up, and that's the stuff that's bring to the forefront. And it's sort of the metatextual ideas that Japan Sinks is bringing forward, and he doesn't bother at all with like, oh, is this character compelling? Is this a good show? Which I think is what Jeff does with his video. And I was thinking about it, like, of my favorite Japan Sinks video, because I really do like that Mother's Basement video about it. Just kind of describing it on a basic, like, as a show, entertaining, following this group of people sort of deal, and kind of what it's doing and stuff like that. Joe doesn't really deal with any of that, so I like that it's a completely different angle, and I think he does it as well, as well as you would expect. I think it's in the same structure of his recent videos with a lot of face cam, but he does a lot more playful stuff with it this time. There's a lot, like, I like the introducing the person he interviews a little part way through into it, and he has it as like, he calls her like during the face cam. He's like, hello, and he's talking to her. It's as if it's live, but I have a feeling it wasn't, but it might have been, and that's pretty cool. He plays it off as that. That's awesome. But yeah, and a lot of there's a lot of quirky stuff, and a lot more of Joe's humor is starting to come through in his videos, which I think is great. I think it's very sharp and like witty, and I get tickled by it mostly, as well as, just knowing him IRL. Not like IRL. I've never met him. 2 words. Redundancy. I mean, like, in Discord and everything like that. He's a really sharp, funny guy. And that character, I think, is starting to show more in his videos, and I think it's really compelling and makes it more engaging and fun. Yeah, I just love the shit out of it. And I think he knocked it as... Here's the thing, right? It's what I expected. So it just kind of met my expectations. Like, yep, that was what I... And, but it was still cool in unique, interesting ways. And yeah, I thought that was excellent video, of course. But it's like, Sasuga. yes. Of course. But I think I'll talk about Gil's latest video for last, digital character, which, like, the thumbnail made it look like it was going to be another another essay. And I was like, oh boy! But just another post AMV, which I saw as a comment as like, you're the best in this post AMV world, and I'm like, oh my gosh, these are post AMV. That totally makes sense. That term is so good. Shit. And I think Hazel's making a lot of those. I will say Hazel did some really good work this week too, but I've talked about her enough. But Gil is just returned after a couple of months and I'm sorry, it's like I'll be talking about like every upload of pauses and of Joe's and of Gil's, but it wouldn't be. They're my favorite. They're my 3x3. What do you expect? Yeah, but Gil comes back really hard, doing a lot of like, not just the video manipulation, but like a lot of the audio stuff. He's playing with this Sandman track and then slows it down and subverts the expectations and brings it back in this kind of different arcs and stuff, and giving it more of a vibe. I'm not as familiar with Digi Carrot. I'm sorry, Charrot, I think it is. This series and the idea of that. They were some things in the comments that were like, yes. I'm like, what do they mean? What is it? What's the inside joke that I don't know? But I mean, as a experience, the grid stuff you were doing was really sick. You have to answer me, man. Like, I mean, you don't have to, but like, is the footage you're getting from Japan with like Akihabara? I guess I would assume it's Akihabara, but I mean, it's probably not. I don't know. It's Japan. I know that. But that footage, like, are you capturing that, or is it, where do you get that? Because like, that's so aesthetic. So fucking Orientals, Jesus Christ. I don't know. I'm sorry. Where do you get the fancy images? Where do you get them animes? I don't know, man. I love it, but it's like, it's really compelling, and it's like, man, where do you get that shit? I was wondering if you record it or something else. It just there it feels like that. It doesn't feel like you're just taking from other stuff as much. I don't know. There's something about it. The way it's compiled. And do a lot of different unique tricks. That's Sasuga GilLiesHere, you know. And that's why these two are kind of competing as like I don't know which one I like more because like both of them very much met my expectations and I loved them to pieces, of course. Oh man. But yeah, I'm sorry I don't have as much interesting things to say about that. It was one of the first that I watched, and it was a while ago, I suppose. But I'm so happy you're back, and yay, good video. Thanks, thanks for the food, good food. Yep, but thank you very much for watching this installment of AniTube Digest. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you to my patrons for supporting the digest, including Beamburst, Durcoin, Hazel, Kuiper, My Anime Pod, Najbeb, Unique Namosaurus, and Yellow Cheese. You guys are great. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great week. Yo, peace.